Frazier.
Here.
Ms. Jordan. Here. Mr. Moss.
Here.
Mr. Stiver.
Here.
Mr. Lance.
Here.
Ms. Seymour. Present. We have everyone present.
Council, I'm making a change to the agenda and move communications ahead because we have no outside people. So the first person requesting recognition is Pamela Gerald.
Before I get started, I would just like to have a moment of silence for my very good friend Emmanuel Stewart, who everybody knows passed away, and they had his funeral on this past Tuesday.
You don't control the agenda, Ms.
Thank you, Mr.
Gerald.
My name is Pamela Gerald. I am an independent voice for Southfield. Those of you that are listening to my voice via YouTube or audio reproduction, I can be reached at P.O. Box 155, Southfield, Michigan, 48037-0155. My telephone number is 248-352-9188. I didn't prepare a speech tonight because I'm going to speak from my heart. And I am really appalled to find out that there's talk about members of this council wanting to limit public communications from 5 minutes to 3 minutes. People that are listening, you've heard me say that it's time for a change. How dare anyone try to cut out freedom of speech when it's in the Constitution? How dare you use your political bit of power to try to stop the residents from addressing this body? Let me remind everybody at this table that the citizens are at the top of the organizational chart. If you attempt to cut down 5 minutes of communication down to 3 minutes, you will be doing yourself, this city, and the residents a disservice. And I want you to think about that wholeheartedly. And on a more positive note, and let me say one other thing before I go to the positive issue. Again, you've heard me say that it's time for a change. I'm going to ask every member at this table and to appeal to your intellectual side and your moral side. Stop using the police for your own personal gain. Stop using the police to harass people because you have a personal problem with them. If you're not man or woman enough to go to the person that you have a problem with and talk to them, you need to step down and step out the way. On a positive note, my friend had a very nice homegoing, Emmanuel Stewart. There were people from all over the world at his funeral, and I'm really sad to see my friend go, and I just hope that they continue to put the Kronk gem in the city of Southfield. We really need it. To the members of council that came to the graduation for the first class of the Southfield Police Citizen Academy, I really appreciate it. I feel honored and privileged to have been in the first class. I learned a lot. I would recommend it to any Southfield resident to participate in such a wonderful experience. Thank you.
Ms. Gerald, may I ask you a question, please?
No, you may not. I'm not entertaining questions.
Who gives you the authority? People should respond to you about this new commission that the police chief organized. Did you organize it?
The next person requests the recognition, Mr. Brian Jones. Is Mr. Jones here? And Mr. Jones, your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes.
Okay, my name is Brian Jones. I'm at 5000 Town Center, and I believe that I gave the council president and Mr. Jeremy Moss my ideas for things that can help the southeastern Michigan area, and I know that you guys have limited time and patience and energies, so I'm going to try and speak as quickly as possible about this myriad of issues. Okay, what I propose is that because of the lack of funding and tax revenue resources available for state and government and social programs, I think there needs to be some form of a committee established that is not necessarily governmental or corporate to secure funding independently as an entity to address the needs of the community. I think that a committee can be formed to create portfolios for greater corporations to donate to government programs lacking tax base, to lobby for the introduction of civil construction projects and programs for the metropolitan area, to synchronize the political agenda of the counties within the southeastern Michigan area, to work to harmonize the differences within the various cultures in southeastern Michigan, and to work to develop or coordinate new existing projects to expedite their manifestation, to help bargain with local and international corporations to bring jobs and technology to the local area. Case in point, to do these variety of projects. Number one would be to design, develop the operations involved in launching a ground-level, high-speed magnetic railing system that connects downtown Detroit with Windsor, Canada, Lansing State Capitol, Ann Arbor U of M campus, as well as other minor locations in between and the highly populated business districts within the periphery. Two, development of a political and economic strategy to attract foreign engineering firms with the emphasis on product design and research and development, using Metro Detroit as their base of operations by offering accommodating incentives and economic shelters with easy startup possibilities in government assistance and environmental development projects for the surrounding civil populations. Three, the development of factories and assembly plants that specialize in the formulation of devices which produce and assist in generating clean renewable energy sources such as the parts for wind, solar, and water-based energy production systems. 4, introducing plants that cater to the design, manufacture, and production of electric and natural gas vehicles for personal, commercial, military, and civil transit systems locally, nationwide, internationally, creating jobs for the surrounding populace. 5, the cultural development of a comprehensive Chinatown similar or greater in relationship to the other major cities in the United States, LA, San Francisco, Chicago, New York, etc., surrounded by an Indian town, for instance, Israel town, Middle Eastern, Chaldean town, African town, Mexican town, all the markets, restaurants, novelty shops, and cultural community centers, recreational activities, and clubs that make these cultures beautiful. 6, the introduction and stimulus of the music and entertainment industry parallel to the casino and cultural arena already downtown Detroit with the development of revolutionary high technology production studios that draw from the influx of engineering talent being siphoned to the metropolitan Detroit area from all over the country, as well as that of the target international talent. And lastly, 7, the overall transformation of Metro Detroit into a vibrant, creative, technological epicenter whereby all cultures from around the country and internationally can peacefully and harmoniously collaborate, sharing cultural tastes with intellectual and creative perspectives to advance the world with the proper and ethical uses of technological innovations and advances to then ultimately promote world peace. Now that was the flyer that I attempted to get to all of you guys, and I'm not sure if it did, so as a consequence I had to read it out. But I do think that if these particular projects were initiated, that southeastern Michigan could be as productive as any of the other metropolitan areas throughout the United States. I think that Michigan has had a great past and a glorious past that needs to be revisited, and I think that it's going to take the cooperation of all the various local counties within the southeastern Michigan area to then get this back started. Now, if the tax-based revenue and funding for these programs is not available, then I think that there should be committees or agencies that assist in the procuring of those funds outside of, of course, the IRS. I think that there should be, something that is newly created to go out and solicit the businesses. Okay.
Just a quick response. Yeah, because I did get your email. I think I responded to it earlier today. And I think there are some, those are some good goals. And I think you said, it's tough for one singular government agency to tackle that, but I know that there are things that exist, Michigan Suburbs Alliance, and other organizations. So I'd be happy maybe we can kind of sit down, I'll sit down with you and talk about some of the things that you can get involved with that tackle these big, high-level, macro issues. So I'll come find you after the meeting. Does that work?
Yeah, I mean, because I travel all over the country. I come back to Michigan, Detroit. I'm like, what's going on? When are we going to get it together?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm done.
All right, Ms. Attorney, you have an item? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Cullen, I beg your pardon. I didn't mean to do that.
At least you got your mark.
Well, I didn't notice. Haven't you noticed?
Yes.
Okay.
Madam President, my name is Gerard Mullen. My address is gerardmullen2012@gmail.com. Tonight, I'm here to talk about those nice guys at Denso who had their office, their Southfield office, on Denso Drive, raided by the FBI, by the Detroit FBI, on Tuesday evening, on February 23rd, 2010. This was the first step taken by the Detroit FBI and the U.S. Department of Justice into their 2-year investigation into criminal activities. The raid can be verified by checking out the February 24th, 2010 publication of the Wall Street Journal, the newspaper that broke the story. This can be ascertained online in the journal's archives. The Flint Journal published the AP's version of the raid, and it can be found online also. Note the AP's headlines. The FBI raids Toyota supplier, Denso's Southfield office in antitrust probe, unquote. You can also verify what I just said by simply visiting our library, but not on Friday. Remember now, Friday is tax abatement day at the library, also known as Denso Friday. The Detroit FBI wasn't taking a field trip or a factory tour of Denso on February 23rd, 2010. Instead, the FBI had a warrant in hand, hunting for criminal evidence on Denso Drive. The FBI eventually caught their prey on January 30th, 2012. Then again, more prey on March 5th. Then again, more prey on March 26th. Then again, more prey on April 26th. This can all be verified by Googling the U.S. Department of Justice website. You will see that in all of the actual court documents, that is, the original indictment and the following plea agreements, were all filed in the U.S. District Court in Detroit. That is, Detroit, Michigan, USA. I hope you folks have figured it out by now. That nice guy from Denso lied to you big time on October 22nd, 2012, by telling you that all the hanky-panky was taking place in Japan and not in Southfield or in the USA, period. Also, that nice guy from Denso lied to you again when he said there was no consent judgment. All 7 members of council had to know about the consent judgment that was entered into by Denso and this city in 2010 as a result of Denso taking this city to tax court. Remember, through the consent judgment, Denso got a tax reduction for the tax years 2008, 2009, and 2010, atop 2 already existing tax abatements in place at that time. Yet not one council person spoke up to expose Denso's big lie. That is, when Denso said there was no consent judgment, when in fact there was a consent judgment. Evil exists when good men do nothing. But then again, you folks want that park, Denso Park. I have in hand that consent judgment, which is MMT docket number 347941, dated August 17, 2010. In spite of the obvious big lies, council still rewarded bad behavior by granting another tax abatement, that is, an additional corporate welfare check to that corporate criminal, Denzel, who has $36 billion in assets, and is a subsidiary of Denzel, of Toyota, who has $31 trillion in assets and owns 23% of Denzel, who has been on the Southfield public dole for the last 15 years, and whose welfare checks keep on coming and coming and coming, just like the ever-ready bunny, and are scheduled to continue and to continue to drain our treasury for at least the next 6 years. That's 21 years of continuous welfare payments so far to those lying rich criminals on Denzel Drive. When does it end? When does it end? What's next on council's agenda? A care package for Bill Gates? Food stamps for Warren Buffett? An upscale NSP condo at King's Crossing for the mother of council's favorite politician? When does it end? When does it end? It's time for a change. It's time for a change.
Thank you, Mr. Mullins. All right, that concludes our public communications. Now, Mr. City Attorney, if you would this item forward. Yeah, this item is in reference to our ordinance and state law in terms of drunk driving violations. As most of you know, the legal limit in Michigan is .08. If you're above that limit, that is operating under the influence of alcohol, that's an offense, and our ordinance mirrors that law. In 2010, the legislature saw fit to say that, you know, there's a wide range between .08 and, you know, potentially .2 something, .3 something, and so they went to what is generally referred to as the super drunk law. And this says that anytime the person is operating a vehicle with a .17 or more, they should be subject to enhanced penalties, because that's worse than if you were just, say, at a .09 or .10. And so they passed that law in 2010. Initially, they did not let cities prosecute that. So, for example, if there was a person who was operating a vehicle and let's say they had a .20, our officers would have to write that under state law in order for the enhanced penalties to apply. Earlier this year, the legislature amended the Home Rule Cities Act, and in so doing, they allowed cities now to opt to prosecute for the enhanced drunk driving violation. And so what I've done is put together a proposed resolution and ordinance which would allow the city now to prosecute for the super drunk violation, which in essence just increases the penalties that a violator would suffer. In general, under a regular drunk driving, our regular drunk driving ordinance, imprisonment would be up to 93 days. This enhanced violation now could mean that a person could be imprisoned for not more than 180 days, so it almost doubles it. The fine under the current ordinance would allow a fine only up to $500. The enhanced violation would now allow a fine somewhere between $200, that would be the minimum, and a maximum of $700. So in essence, all it does is just put a direct correlation between the level of the alcohol that was consumed and the penalty that could be imposed. And so what I was seeing, if there was a consensus from council to go in this direction, then I would put it on for next Monday's regular meeting for approval and introduction of the ordinance. Okay, we're looking at anyone first, any questions?
The penalty given now as is, isn't that enough?
Well, the legislature believed that there's a great difference between somebody who is operating a vehicle at, say, .09 or .10 versus a person who might be 2, 3, 4 times sometimes the legal limit. And so that's what they were trying to address, is that when you're up into that .20, I've seen a .39 at one time. Those levels are so significant that do you assess the same penalty for that level versus someone maybe that had 3 or 4 beers and was at a .09. And so that was the intent, Mr. Lance, is to somehow just address that when a person is, 3 times the legal limit, that there ought to be a different penalty.
There's no question of that. I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
But let me tell you in reality what happened.
Mm-hmm.
The judges here turn it over, they're guilty on even the smaller penalty, they turn it over to Oakland County, the circuit court. Did you know that?
No, unless, if they write under state law, it goes to circuit court. If we write it under city ordinance, we prosecute it in our office. It doesn't go to circuit court. We prosecute it right upstairs of our building.
There were times that I know of that the judges here remanded it to circuit court.
Sometimes if it's a second or subsequent offense, Mr. Lance, it will go for an enhanced penalty, because if
Okay.
you have drunk drivings within a 10-year period, those can be felonies, and then it would go up to the circuit court.
Okay, now let me tell you what happens in circuit court.
Okay?
They don't go to jail for 90 days. They go to jail for minimum 6 months or more. Okay? And they ruin people's lives. Instead of giving them help, they incarcerate them. And it costs them, when they're incarcerated,
Yes,
a lot of money.
yes.
Then maybe they're put on probation and home they go. But they get tethered.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you something else. Tell me about the system that's happening to people ruining their lives. And when it gets tethered, they have a breathing thing, which the probation people give them.
Yes.
And they have to breathe in it 2 or 3 times a day. And the record is taken. Now, let me tell you a secret. People use mouthwashes.
Mm-hmm.
There's alcohol in the mouthwashes.
Some, mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that, when they breathe into that contraption, it registers. Okay, and they hold it against them that they drank or drunk. Now, at the same time, if they don't use the alcohol derivative, they use the plain one, it shows up as alcohol. It shows up as a chemical. They don't know what chemical, but, and they accuse the people of drinking.
Mm-hmm.
So they get another 6 months in jail.
The only
Nobody can do anything about it.
Well, but again, that would never happen on a first-time driving offense. Operating under the influence, never.
It has happened in the first, second,
Yeah,
first,
second or
and third.
subsequent, yeah.
We know that.
I've never seen that.
Why not, why incarcerate them? Why not give them medical help?
Well, I would
Instead of
say,
incarcerating them.
I would say in my experience, on a first-time offense, that's what judges do. In this court, they do not send people to jail on a first-time drunk driving offense. Generally, they do not.
Generally.
Right.
They have.
If there were extenuating circumstances, then
Well,
it is possible.
Whatever.
But I'm just saying that this is trying to recognize the difference between the level of the alcohol
Yeah, I
that was
know.
consumed before the person got behind the wheel.
I just wanted to tell the people what the problem is with the judges. The judges in Pontiac do not care. They incarcerate them. Instead of giving them help, they incarcerate them. And I fought here one time for somebody. Of course, they didn't win it. I didn't win it. They were incarcerated. It cost them, it wrecked their lives. They can't get a job or anything. So instead of helping them, they go to hell by the state, by the city, or by the county.
Yeah, not by the city, not out in
The
circuit court.
county. I'm just telling everybody with our justice system. And I can't do anything about it. I try. Yeah.
What is the,
Mr. Frazier?
what
Yes.
is,
Typically, I think what happens in our courts, and I guess, as you say, city attorney, that when our police write the ticket, it goes to our court, and usually what happens is our judges will send them to Human Services, where they will go through counseling for driving under the influence. So,
They go to alcohol awareness classes.
Yes.
No, I've never heard of that.
well, they do, because I know that. And now I can't speak for what happens the second or third time, but for the first time, they send them to, over to Human Services, they go through counseling, and they have a bunch of interns that are really, counselors that are waiting for their licenses, because so they've been offered through their training, but they need counseling hours in order to get their license, and I use those, over at Human Services. Thank you.
So what happens to this, Bloomfield Hills, where they're, not, taking into consideration, the ability to, help individuals with this automatic jail?
There is a judge in particular that does believe
Jail
in incarceration on the first offense, yes.
Judge Warren.
No, this should be in the district court, over 48.
So the district court has that power now?
Absolutely, right now, even if you forget what we're proposing here, under our ordinance, if you are a .08 or more, you can go to jail for up to 93 days and up to and including, and in addition to a $500 fine. So a judge right now could put you in jail for 93 days on a first-time drinking and driving offense, if they were so inclined.
And they are.
Just looking at what the, difference between that and, super drunk as far as his days in jail. What is it today, Sue?
Today it would be 93. On the super drunk, it would go up to a potential of 180 days.
Up to 180 days.
Right.
It doesn't mean it is 180 days.
No, it does not. That just gives the judge discretion.
I see no problem with that at all.
Or 360 hours of.
Or the community service, right, enhances the community service.
Ms. Jordan?
I wanted to know, my question was somewhat answered by Councilman Frazier, was counseling included in the penalties that we give?
Absolutely. Every OUIL case, impaired case that gets in front of our judges, they do alcohol awareness, they'll do the victim impacts, they do so much in terms of trying to get people to understand on this first time offense that how significant this is and how dangerous it is.
And that doesn't have to be included in the penalty?
No, that's just the discretion. The only change is that's already in the judge's discretion. This is what now would be enhanced.
So it's up to the judge if they decide?
Yes.
Is there something that needs to be followed on by penalty and not leave it up to the judge?
It's not really a penalty, it's what the judge
Not a penalty,
is looking at the equity.
Right.
They just do that routinely. Again, every case that goes forward is that alcohol awareness is right there. Because it's really not a penalty, it's trying to help people. Exactly.
So we don't have to
Right,
put it in.
right.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
I have a question. Do the judges have the discretion to put somebody into some sort of medical or treatment?
They do, and a lot of times what people will do, especially on a subsequent offenses, they'll go in before a judge even, suggests it, because what they're trying to do is mitigate some of the issues that they have so that would look favorable in terms of the sentencing.
But the judge could also
They could,
make a decision to...
well, they could recommend it in lieu of jail.
Okay.
They could recommend it in lieu of jail.
More people in jail than recommendations.
It is, and that's what the goal is try to get people not to be drinking and driving.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, are you finished?
Well, it's medical help. I know. Medical help. They don't care. It's easy for them to off the jail. I know some cases. That's why I'm talking. All right, there's nothing I can, I talk.
We have an authority over that at all, do we?
What's that?
Oh, we can't tell the court what to do.
No, they have guidelines that they operate under.
You've got a judge, and you just reelected, that in the audience of his court sits members of NAD, and he must jail those people, otherwise he won't get reelected. And those members, every single day, you get 2 of them from the NAD Corporation. You know what that is.
We have and they had observers sitting in our courtroom.
And they influence that judge.
It's not in our court, is it?
They do it in our court.
No, but you
But
would,
they do it in our
control
court.
another court.
I don't know of any cases here,
Okay.
but I do know in Pontiac.
Okay. Can I finish?
Go ahead.
Well,
I'm just curious as to what's the frequency in our court, between people who would be super drunk as opposed to under the .17?
I would say the majority of cases would be under that .17. But, you know, that is not uncommon for us to write warrants. I mean, we write warrants every day for drunk driving, and it's not uncommon to see a .20, .22. That's not,
Because I'm just,
not uncommon.
I'm sitting here totally understanding, you know, there's a human side to it, and you have to take everything into consideration, but when you get somebody who's that inebriated getting behind the wheel, there's a huge risk to our public safety, and there has to be a consequence.
I agree to that.
No, and I'm not saying you don't. I understand what you're saying too.
People who have just the minimum amount.
Yeah.
That could be helped.
Yeah.
Come from good families.
Yeah.
Or come from poor families, which makes it worse.
Mm-hmm.
And they're thrown in jail, and they have to pay when they're in jail.
Right.
They have to buy their toothbrush, they have to buy their combs, they have to buy their clothing.
Yeah, but I think there's a differentiation between that person who just made a mistake and just had bad circumstances happen,
But
between
they're
somebody
there.
who
You
is
should
just
see what the song-
absolutely inebriated and made the decision to get behind the wheel. So I'm comfortable with the increased penalty. Yeah, this is for the people who are
Right. Way over.
But
extremely.
everybody is swept up in it.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Why don't they differentiate between the real drinkers and some people the first, even the second time? And where they come from? Why don't they examine and checked out medically? So they'll get the truth.
Well, that's all the regulations.
I just wanted to go back to the question, can we put in our ordinance that we require counseling for those who are,
Well,
can we do that?
We adopt the motor vehicle code, and so the penalties for violations are there. But I'm telling you, judges always try to get, if there's a problem, they try to get to that.
But I'm saying as a city,
Mhm.
our own policy,
Mhm.
can we require under our ordinance that if a person is caught drunk driving, that counseling is a part of whatever penalty they
Well,
get?
I don't know that you could require it, but we could certainly, if we have that, are we saying we would offer that? We would
Why not?
develop
You
a
send
program
them
to offer it?
Say, Quavis, why not? Offer it.
I was suggesting that the person would be responsible
yeah.
for bringing back a letter saying I've been to counseling at X amount of counseling
I'm
agency,
certified,
or
gonna
not
ignore that.
necessarily certified, but I'm thinking of the nonprofit organizations
Right.
that are in the city that do that on a volunteer
Right.
basis. To
But-
help a person out.
But again, I mean, those services are there, and people avail themselves all the time. I mean, we see that every day. Somebody will bring a letter and saying, you know, I made a mistake, I understand what I did now, I understand the consequences, I've gotten some help, I've tried to see that maybe either I do or don't have an alcohol problem. And so that they are getting to that point, and I think that's better than just throwing somebody in jail, is to get them to understand that if they do have a problem, to get treatment for that problem.
That's also true. See who's in jail. See who's in jail. They don't get letters. They don't do a thing. They can't. They're afraid. The families are afraid. There are so many people in jail that shouldn't be in jail. Go to Oakland County Jail. Take a visit there and see who's in jail.
So Sue, could we as a policy for this city have that on the record?
You know, I don't think that you can, we adopt in Michigan, the traffic code of the state of Michigan. Those are parameters within a judge's discretion, is in terms of the counseling and ordering the alcohol awareness. That is counseling, that really is.
Right.
And that's routinely done. Obviously, that initial assessment, if the person needs treatment, they are then recommended for other available treatment programs. So I think they're all getting to the point that you're trying to get to. Every defendant gets to that point, at least in our court. They do. They get to that point. If they need treatment, and help, they get it.
I had 2 instances where they didn't get it.
But you're talking about circuit court.
And here,
To the attorney, do we get the option of doing nothing?
You don't have to adopt the super drunk enhancement. You do not. You can leave it the way it is, and then anything over .08, we would still prosecute, and the potential would be up to $93 days and up to $500. So no, you do not have, it's an option.
What's the advantage of doing that?
The advantage is that when it's a higher blood alcohol level, then there are enhanced penalties to recognize that.
okay, the evidence is there, so why do we need another ordinance upon it?
Like I say, the state legislature has determined that when you're more than 2 times the legal limit, that is significant. When you get behind the wheel and you're more than twice the legal limit, that there should be a different penalty for those type of individuals than someone that maybe had 3 or 4 beers and had a blood alcohol level of .09. And that's what the super drunk legislation was designed to do, to maybe try to get a handle on somebody. Again, I think the statistics and the studies will bear out that people that can get behind the wheel and drive at a .25 or a .30, those are probably people that have built up a tolerance for alcohol. And so they can try to get to that person quicker because that person probably has more of a problem than a person that blew a .09.
So this just gives us, our court, the authority to prosecute at that level, is that
Yeah,
correct?
otherwise, our officers will still write a super drunk violation, but it will go up to the county and they will prosecute it.
Okay, so
We will not.
We benefit only because we could collect the fees rather than the
That's
county?
true. That's true. The revenues would come to the city rather than go up to the state.
So one way or another it's gonna happen?
One way or the other, they will probably be written. Our officers are writing them.
Okay.
They're just not writing them for this court.
I just was curious.
Okay. So what she's requesting, if there's consensus to move this forward, to the November 26th?
Yes.
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 I'm not sure.
And I say yes. Okay, thank you. And the, demolition?
Okay, we have folks here that can assist. This was the item, council, that was on a regular agenda recently. It involved 4 properties. On the afternoon of we were going to consider this, we received word that there was interest in a person purchasing one of the properties. And of course, we wanted to encourage that. So what we did is we discussed this with the person. There was an agreement worked out as to what they have to do to secure the properties. They have signed agreements and done whatever is necessary to give us peace of mind that they will prepare the structure. So now we're down to 3 structures that need to be demolished, and we're ready to go, and we're asking for a Rule 10. The low bid amount is indicated, and the vendor held the initial bid. So we'd like to request immediate need to act so we can get these structures.
Move the Rule 10.
Or
Motion by Mr. Stiver, supported by Mr. Frazier, that the local meeting need to act on the Rule 10. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And I move item 2, the receipt of bids for demolition and site clearance at 22445 Civic Center Drive, 20850 West Haven, and 20765 Montana.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Stiver, supported by Mr. Frazier, to approve the demolition of the adjusted building. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
thank you, council.
Ms. Lawrence, do you want to take the, this is the travel expense report of Mayor Lawrence? And, oh, yes. I guess Ms.
Yes.
Lawrence.
There was, already asked that we, have a meeting, and I advised Mr. Frazier that he would join me, but in the, period that we, were waiting for that to take place, we met with Mr. Charette, and, the recommendation is that we approve these 2, travel expenses of the mayor, and that my concerns would be addressed at the time that we, look at the travel policies.
All right. So you're asking for both of these to be, is that a motion?
Yes.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Perkowski, supported by Mr. Frazier, that we approve the travel expense report for the year one.
You need a rule 10 for that?
Yes, we do need Rule 10.
I'll move Rule 10.
Support.
Back up, we have a motion, we need to do that, and vote Rule 10 by Mr. Perkowski, supported by Mr. Frazier. All in favor?
Aye.
And then the motion to approve by Mr. Perkowski, supported by Mr. Frazier, is that correct?
No,
Yep.
Mr. Fritwell does that.
I did, yeah.
To approve the travel expense report, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, Counsel.
Can I just add something here? Not on the travel report, but, on expense, reimbursement. I have been delinquent. And I didn't think it mattered. And then was brought to my attention, when we change fiscal years, it makes extra work. So now that I'm cognizant of that, I've corrected my way. I just didn't, so I think that that's the point here, is that it makes extra work when things aren't turned in on time.
I think most of us haven't thought of that, to be honest with you.
The accounting year, the year ends June 30th.
Right. Right. All right, now we come to item number 5, amendment of council rules of procedure. Let me see. We had talked in the past, I'm looking for something that's working. We've talked in the past, previously, some years ago, we had a 3-minute speaking time for public comment. And at a later date, we changed it to 5 minutes. Now, we've talked about reducing it again because we had long meetings, and we talked about going back to these. Actually, this would put us more in I guess, good company of what most other communities are doing. I'm going to read off some to you, and if you want to copy this, I can maybe have them. But the 3 minutes are Oak Park, those that give 3 minutes, Oak Park, Ferndale, Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti, Livonia, Novi, Beverly Hills, Boston, Bloomfield Hills. 5 minutes are our own city, Troy, Rolette, Morelos, Farmington Hills, and Northville. So we would be more in keeping with the majority of communities if we went back to 3 minutes. The time, as we all know, that I would say this is public benefit, time can be extended if the chair, if the presiding chair grants that if there's a legitimate reason for needing more time to hear these concerns. So, what we talked about doing was putting this, I think we wanted to do a Rule 10 here.
That certainly would be an option.
That would be an option. But the other thing is it would be effective January 1. So everybody would have ample. Well, we can, I'd like to get it done tonight. It'll be effective January 1. Either we want to do it or we don't want to do it. Can we go around the table and see if we want to do it tonight?
What's the urgency of doing it tonight, rather than doing it next week, when we don't have to do a Rule 10?
We can put it on next week.
I'm just asking a question. It's not a demand here.
It's not, all right, we'll put it to the, meeting of the 26th. Everybody agree to that? All right. We have a couple of additions. Ms. Lawrence has asked to, for an appointment that she would like to make tonight, and I agreed to put that on the agenda. Last minute addition.
Yes. Council members, many of you know our emergency manager, division director, Frank Coops, who has a result of that, we have, went on the search of fulfilling our charter, which says the mayor is responsible for a civil defense organization and appointing a director. And so in doing so, I've sat down with administration, with Frank Coop, and done some research. And I would like to present to this body and inform you that we are going to be moving to a new model, being fiscally responsible and utilizing our internal experience. And I have reached a decision to appoint to the emergency manager, division director, to firefighter captain reserve officer William Johns. Mr. Johns has been responsible for development and execution of the fire reserve program, which has just provided us with 4 new fully trained firefighters under the SAFER grant. This is an opportunity for us to enhance operations of the emergency management department with up-to-date policies and procedures and utilize the services of available firefighters. There will be no salary change to Captain Johns for taking on this additional responsibility. He will remain in a transition period where he's training right now. And what we have decided to do, Frank Coop, who has been, as you know, very active with the volunteers, and the council have said repeatedly how valuable our volunteers are to this community. And so Frank Coops has agreed, beginning the 1st of December, to come on for 20 hours a week, $20 an hour, to be over the volunteers program for the city. And I'm excited. I talked to Captain Johns, and he was so receptive and so willing to take on his responsibility. His vision for how we can take skills and talents and programs that are out there, best practices, and so that we can really take technology and all that we have for emergency management. And then he also has committed to, in 30 days, to come back and talk about, and we have talked to Fred Zorn also about some best practices in other communities of how they use their volunteers. And so we're going to look at expanding our volunteers, getting more people involved, and making sure that we're tapping into the resources we have in our community. Just for the record, if any of you like Mr. John's resume, which is impeccable, he has been with the Southfield Fire Department for 22 years. He moved up from a firefighter and paramedic to lieutenant, and then to captain reserve officer. He was honorably discharged from the U.S. Air Force, and before coming to Southfield in 1990, worked as a firefighter and emergency dispatcher in Auburn Hills. And I can tell you he's very excited about this, and I think that this will serve the city well and will allow us to keep top-notch energy behind a program and a service that we need in our community.
Now, do you want to move this to the next meeting and have them be sworn in?
Yes. I wanted to introduce you, to make sure the council knew, and then we'll introduce them publicly.
Okay.
Any questions?
I do have one quick question. So, Frank Coombs will remain as a part-time person strictly over the volunteers?
Yes.
Is that indefinitely, or is there a date that?
No, Mr. John, Captain John, our emergency manager director, will meet with me in 30 days, and he and I will sit down. He's going to develop how he wants to operate the emergency managers booth. There's so many activities that goes on during the holidays and this time of the year that I needed some leadership for them while he has opportunity in a new position to define it and make sure that we are meeting the expectations of growing our volunteers. So it's not a contract. He is there now, and we have an agreement for 20 hours, $20 an hour.
Definitely, or that's what I'm asking. Is there going to be a date that Mr. Coombs' job will end with the volunteers?
I will be able to tell you that better in 30 days. I wanted to give, I could make that decision, but I thought Mr. John should have an opportunity to be in the position, evaluate it, and come back with his recommendation. So if you would give us 30 days, I'll be able to answer that question.
Is this sort of a division of duties for the time being?
Yes.
It is, okay.
Yes.
Mr. Simon?
And is this a full 20 hours, or maybe 1 week you only need to lift 5?
It's up to 20 hours.
Up to.
Up to.
It's not, okay.
It's
That's
not,
a little clear.
yeah.
So,
Up to.
so depending on how, I'm just trying to understand, depending on how they find this way to work, and I know we're getting into a busy season when there are a lot of demands on this group of people.
Yeah.
And this happens quite a bit where we need it, so it's kind of, I don't want to say play it by ear, but it's as the case demands, am I incorrect in making that, as the times demand, or is this something that you kind of intend to work permanent arrangement based on a temporary?
We have always had a captain, they use kind of a military title, a captain that's over assigning and operating.
That part I understand, it's the other part that's kind of consistent.
That's why I'm saying, we've always had that position. Yes, there's always been a coordinator, yeah.
We don't want to lose coordination of the volunteers while Captain Johns is getting acclimated fully on the emergency management requirements. And that's why 30 days makes sense, because there's 30 days. 30 days will be for the holidays.
And I'll come back, I'll probably have Captain John come back and present what his plan is.
That's
Yeah.
I think you'll get a great selection.
Madam Chair,
I do too.
I think it's a great choice. I just don't want to, open end on Mr. Coots.
Okay. That's why I said, give me the bridge, 30 days, and I promise you.
Come back to us in 30 days.
Yes.
I think Frank ought to become a volunteer so he learns how to take orders instead of give them.
Well, I think he did it one time.
Yeah.
All right, that's good. Now, Mr. Stiver, you want to talk about the temporary fund agreement? And the baseline budget?
We have,
Another addition council?
we have moved along, you'll recall in August that we, approved this project in concept, and, it was stuck together.
Oh,
Here we go. We approved this, what's looked in the baseline project with the caveat that no city funds be expended on this. And so, on our own time, Councilman Prasasi, Moss, and myself, and City Planner Strode, we have spent evenings out meeting with various community groups to do community building. And we are now getting offers of donations. And so I approached the Southfield Community Foundation to be the repository for the funds that are donated to this, funding this project. They took it to their board, which gave direction to the director of the Community Foundation, Raquel Robinson, to proceed with a fund agreement. What you have before you tonight is their boilerplate fund agreement, and this would allow donors to get a federal tax credit if they contributed to the project, because it would go through the Southfield Community Foundation. It also would be in keeping with the spirit of the direction we received in August that no city funds be spent on this. In other words, the financial staff of Southfield, the city of Southfield, would not be, handling these funds.
So it's really to deposit them with the foundation
Right,
and people.
and then they would
take
write the
advantage
check
of
to
that.
pay for the landscaping or pavers or the bless itself.
Much like they do with other.
Um, It's been very, I just would add also that we've, when we, there, on the back of your brochure, this isn't totally up to date. There are other groups that have lent their endorsement now. But for instance, when we went to Boy Scout Troop 1667, they're interested in being involved in this as an Eagle project. The Southfield Parks and Garden Club was interested in donating landscaping. The public schools were extremely excited about the linking this to Southfield and Michigan history, which was part of the curriculum. The Southfield Downtown Development Authority, Cornerstone District has endorsed it, as has the Southfield Library Board and the Friends of the Southfield Public Library. We have a couple more evening appearances, early morning, the Chamber of Commerce, Green Dolphin Neighborhood, Northland Gardens, Open Village Association, and a couple more. So we've done a lot of community building since August, and as now we're at a point where people say, well, I'm ready to write a check. Matter of fact, Beacon Square contacted us and said that they would like to donate. And so we need to have a repository for these funds, especially when somebody offers. We shouldn't say, oh, well, can you wait a while? And I just got this last week, so I'm sorry for the late notice. And then in a conversation with Don on Friday, he reminded me that we really need to discuss this as a group, and sort of in our excitement, we almost missed a step. So and I thought, well, that's a good time to update everybody on how this is coming along.
When do you think will be installed?
We're planning a fundraising campaign starting the first of the year. And then, although people are ready now, and then hopefully by next summer.
Okay, so we want a little pen so that we can have a repository for, so I need a motion.
So moved.
Support.
By Mr. Moss, supported by Mr. Frazier, that we invoke little pen, we need to act, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We need a motion.
I'll make the motion to agree to the repository in the Southfield Community Foundation for the baseline project.
By Mr. Moss, supported by Mr.
Question on this.
Well, let me just make it, motion by Mr. Moss, supported by Mr. Frazier. Any questions or discussion?
I have one question.
Well,
So, Mr. Cyber, what's the exact dollar amount that we need? When you look at these ranges, it still isn't.
Yeah, it's we're looking at 25,000 minimally, but it depends on what donations we get. For instance, if the Southfield Park and Garden Club does plants the bushes, then we would save funding on that. I don't know if you saw, the Boy Scouts put in a paver patio down at the VFW hall.
We did a great.
It's phenomenal.
Amazing.
So, again, they were very enthusiastic when we went to the troop about doing this. So I don't have a better answer for you. We do know what the obelisk itself will cost and the foundation, and they're outlined there.
I can add on to that. There's a specific minimum. Half of the amount of the actual cost of the obelisk needs to be raised before we can actually order it. So we do have kind of a threshold to meet in the immediate in order to get the ordering.
And how much is that?
that's what's not clear in what we're looking at.
About 10,000. About 10,000.
10,000, that would be half, is that the half?
half of the obelisk.
Okay, so 20,000 is more the cost of the actual obelisk itself.
That's right, that's right. And
Yeah,
that's-
and it has, you can't just put it there, it has to be on the foundation.
Oh, I understand that, but I'm just saying, if we get 10,000, you'll order, but you need more money for the foundation.
It says
so-
30,000 here for a church.
Right. That's with all the glitter and
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it sounds like what you're saying, Mr. Stiver, is that some of this stuff could be donated.
right.
Some of the labor
So
could be
this labor
donated,
could
where
be
this might
donated.
not done that.
And, you know, maybe you do less, you don't put benches there, or you do without something else if you haven't raised the money. I mean, there are.
An ongoing project?
Yeah, it could be.
I think it might, you could go attract.
So we have the location
Yeah,
and
I
we
know.
have the Terry's brought forth kind of a schematic and landscaping plan, and so that's what we really would like to do.
Yeah.
Maybe we can just hold the tent, so to
I
speak.
can't, my own feeling is, once you got that piece up, people would want to enhance it. I would think that they would want to enhance it.
We're open too.
Yeah, that's fine.
How many of you walk down on a river walk and see the pavers with names on them? You can put a family name. I would think, the opportunity, because I thought maybe if you bought so much, you would get your name on the obelisk, and you all don't want any names on here. If we don't put names, it would think that something that would kind of symbolize things in Southfield, but I would think on the ground pavers, and I thought the Riverwalk did a great job with that, instead of just blank pavers.
We haven't really, we've discussed that in committee, but we haven't agreed upon, but we've all agreed that we would, recognize, the donors.
Yeah, they'd have to be recognized.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the Riverwalk.
Depending on how much they give.
Right.
Because there may be a little thing like this.
Right.
If you don't give much.
That's right.
Just put their initials.
Because that's the way the Riverwalk is. If you give a certain amount, you get a big block. If you give a little amount, you get a little. So.
Well, we did the same one thing with the veterans thing.
But that's all one
But-
time.
Well, right, but it's the same idea, that people buy a brick or they can buy a family thing, we did it over on, the city center.
Right, city center.
Yeah,
Yeah.
over there, and we did it out here, so it's the same idea, but it would be all in one place,
Yeah.
and same concept, yeah. I like that idea. All right, so we've, did we vote to approve this?
You didn't vote.
Okay. We have a motion by Mr. Moss, supported by Mr. Frazier, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I had a question.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I just wanted, Sue, number 5, the amount available for distribution from the current fund will be determined solely by the trustees of the foundation. As this donations go in and as money has to be dispersed, is there any problem with that?
Well, I mean, that's, I don't wanna
Because
say it's a
only
risk,
two-
but you're right. People are giving this money to the foundation, which is a separate legal entity. And so this is simply saying that distributions from foundation money are up to the trustees of the foundation. So, I mean, we've done
They
this
could do
before.
direct giving.
You know, that you can set it up where you decide where the money goes. You don't have to have it under
And I
their
think this is
discretion.
like a boilerplate for their,
No, but I know just like the,
It's a directed giving.
directed giving,
Mhm.
and so they don't sit down and decide where it goes, and I think that's something that we should do, because they should not be voting on,
what payments are made.
Yeah.
what-
Absolutely, I agree with
Yeah.
that, 100%.
So we can change this along that line, that the decisions on the expenses would be up to the committee.
Yeah.
So we're approving not only putting this depository with them, but also signing the contract, that's correct?
Right.
I have a question.
That amendment, yes, Mr. Frazier.
From the committee, is it your thought that you not only are collecting money to install the obelisk and whatever you need to do, but you will continue to collect money for maintenance, or was it like a one-time thing, get it installed and then?
We haven't discussed that, so that's a good question.
But you have to have maintenance.
Oh, yeah, I know that, but did they think about how to do that?
No, we, no, thank you.
You know how to shine up marble?
Just as an example, someone brought up the city center. There was initial funds that were collected for the actual building, the capital improvements. And as corporations sponsor the flag, that money is put into a fund, and that fund then is requested for helping with the maintenance. So something similar could be done in this case. So we already have, a tried and true practice where the community foundation is managing some of the funding and then reimbursing on an as-needed basis. So originally for the construction, and then a fund set up for maintenance and repairs.
We're also planning to go before the grant committee of the community foundation and seek their donation from them for this project.
Okay, I think that's it. Anyone else have anything else before we go on? That concludes our regular agenda, the most of our agenda. We're now up to the last item, which is discussion of election of officers. So I think, how are we going to do that?
I'm sorry.
How are we going to do that? Take nominations?
Well, usually what you've done is if you have to, nominations have been made, and once we hear the nominations.
And you'll pass out the ballot?
Right. I
Okay.
mean, not unless there's only one name for one position, then usually.
Okay, Mr. Lance,
I'd like to nominate, Sylvia Jordan.
any other nominations?
I'll nominate Ken Fiver.
Okay, any other nominations for president, Ms. Sylvia Jordan and Mr. Ken Cyber? I think we do that ballot, Nancy, first.
Well, the nominations.
You want to wait and do the,
No, have the nominations closed.
are there any other nominations? Are the nominations closed? Motion to close nominations? All right, Mr. Lance makes a motion to close nominations. All in favor?
Aye.
Feel free. We won't comment, Mr.
Until we read it in front of us. With your name attached to it.
Okay. Sylvia, councilperson Sylvia Jordan, for Ken Cyber. Councilperson Sylvia, Joan Seymour, excuse me, for Sylvia Jordan. Councilman Donald Cassie for Ken Cyber. Councilman Sidney Lance for Sylvia Jordan. Councilman Myron Frazier for Ken Cyber. Councilman Jeremy Moss for Ken Cyber. And Councilman Ken Seibert for Ken Seibert. So we've got 5 for Ken Seibert and 2 for Sylvia Gordon, just like straw voters for Mr. Seibert.
So we need nominations for President Pro Tem?
And will the Sylvia Jordan be nominated for councilperson for town, as a chair for town?
Any other nominations? By acclamation, she's the nominee. Well, there are no other nominations. I think,
Congratulations, everybody.
Yeah.
This concludes, any other business or?
I do have, in the paper over the weekend, there was an article that said that there's a new hallucinatory drug that came out that, the state says it's not, the state police says it's not covered by the current law. It's a Smiles.
Smiles, yeah.
Yes.
I have the article, we're gonna deliver it
Yeah,
tomorrow morning.
yeah,
So
I thought
we're
we
meeting
could
at
get it
9 o'clock
with
tomorrow.
the police chief and take a look at that.
Okay, my question is, we patterned our ordinance after the state police.
We did.
And if they're saying that theirs doesn't cover it, means we gotta start all over again?
Well, we would have to then amend our ordinance. I don't know what the state is intending. I don't know if anything's been introduced at the state level, so we'll follow up on it.
But I thought we gave ourselves the flexibility.
We do, but again, it would have to be at least, we use language like a similar component. If the state police are saying that they think this thing is outside of that, yeah, we may have an issue under our ordinance as well, so we'll follow up on that.
I didn't see the article. Is this something that's being sold in gas stations?
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
Yeah, and they say it's worse than the others.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
just,
right.
they say they've had some bad experiences. They didn't name, I didn't see where they named places, but they just said that they had some bad experiences. And it's worse than the other ones. Bath salts.
What's the name of it?
Smiles.
What is it, a hallucinatory?
Yeah, it's like bath salts and the other ones that we.
I've never heard of that.
It's relatively new now.
Yeah. Well, that was always the concern anyhow, is that, as quickly as the law caught up with them, they'd invent something new by, the chemical composition of it.
You can change every bit of it. Sue told you that, remember?
Correct.
If they take one little different
Yeah.
Or
formula,
take
change
whole
it formula.
different compounds now. Same stuff, but, yeah.
Incidentally, I was in a gas station at night waiting for the line to get out so I could get my change. I was looking around, and they have cigarette rolling machines.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just,
what they're doing
I guess I'm
yeah.
out of the dark ages where, the cowboy rolls it up and spits on it.
There was early days, hip-hop had a match. A match
Oh, yeah.
hook.
Yeah.
And you put the tobacco in there and it had like a loose roll. And when you close it up, the cigarette came out that way you strike the match. That's where the cigarette came out.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
No, on this, they have little machines that showed you can make filter cigarettes and unfiltered.
And probably others, but.
I'm sure, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And this is a question for our legislative committee for administration. The new proposal that just came out, I don't know if it's going to pass, but usually if the governor proposes it passes, where they're going to change the funding of schools. Is that going to have an effect on Proposal A? Because if it does, it should change our tax structure here, because they said now the funding for the schools will be based on the number of children in the classroom. So it won't be per classroom, it will be per student. And so, you know how Proposal A is a negative impact. Does this throw out Proposal A? And I think we need to be on top of that, find that out, because if it is, it will be a reduction to our
Big
citizens.
time.
Especially the whole harmless.
Especially the whole harmless. And so
I think that remains to be seen how that will interact with Proposal A, so.
Yeah, because they saying it's a restructure, and it hasn't been done since 1979 with the proposal act. So I'm, not that I'm in love with his legislation, but I'm excited about the fact that for once Southfield can get some relief, and we'll be treated equally.
We'll get 20 mils, right?
Right.
We'll be treated equally.
19 mils, 17 mils.
Yeah, 16,
16,
right,
17 mils.
But,
Yeah.
you know, the point of the hold harmless was to enrich the school or the experience of the students in Southfield, not to take the money because you don't want to go to a Southfield school and go someplace else. That defeats the purpose of the millage. So, you know, your comment is right on.
Well, I always felt that when the people voted additional monies for our students, that was set aside from the dollars that were sent up to the state to be spread out.
Exactly.
And I could never understand how you could, no more than you could say, hey, we're building an ice rink, and it's gonna be millage for that, you participate, and all of a sudden somebody says, well, wait a minute, no, that all goes to another pocket. You know, that was specifically approved for a certain thing. And I've always contested that proposal A should never have robbed us of all that money.
Yes, I agree.
And by the same token, school of choice legislation, when let's say an Oak Park student comes to Southfield, you don't, Southfield does not get the full state aid. They get Oak Park's level.
Right.
So,
Huge difference.
Right.
this is not fair.
But they get ours.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Farmington Hills, you
So
can go
it-
getting.
This just makes it worse. I mean, that whole scenario.
But now he's saying it's every child's head has the same price.
Exactly.
And that, but the thing that disturbed me is that they're leaving the opt-out clause. So the Birminghams and the Bloomfields can say, we don't want those other kids. But it's gonna cause a problem because by students' head, they're gonna have to do something. Those communities don't have a lot of children. So they're gonna have to do something. But we really need to stay step by step on top of this. And what does that mean for our taxpayers?
I always thought we should go to court and get out of that mess. That's good. But there's two of us left. What is it, Down River, you and us?
Yeah, Covert made a settlement, I guess.
Yeah.
So Covert was the third one.
Yeah.
Because of the nuclear power plant.
The power plant.
Power plant, nuclear power plant. There was a disproportionate number of dollars that went into there.
Yeah, I'm sure before you, go ahead.
The other thing is our superintendent of school won superintendent of the year, and I would like to honor her.
I understand that you got a proclamation and
For
a joint.
December 10th, she's not available.
Until December.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure we do that.
We're on the case there.
Yeah, to the chair-elect, or whoever, I'd like to put, the taxi cab on the agenda, because that gentleman.
I was contacted by a gentleman too.
He still wants to open up a dispatch center here.
I kept the track.
And, the other would be the travel policy. And lastly, I wanna pass on these pictures, I gotta have them back. These are the only ones I have, I ran out of ink. But anyways, this is the driveway, you know, on Lasher Road, where they put in asphalt, and they put in,
Oh, yeah.
and some driveways, they put in cement, and the asphalt they put in. I checked with Gary Tressel, he said that 36A is what they normally put on a driveway, which is smooth. But you can see that in this particular one, that's the kind of stuff they put down. You can pass that around.
You know, when you mentioned that, I went back up there, and it doesn't seem to be rhyme or reason why some driveways.
But this is even worse. Now, this is a person's driveway on Lasher Road, and here, the asphalt is broken up, but they didn't take this, they drew a line over here, so they didn't fix the whole driveway.
Who would be responsible in this case?
And that's half of the driveway.
We're going to have to plan
But-
big time on this.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
But then, and this one here, this was a good one here, I almost got killed on this one, but anyway, here. go in the center line, so I drink a cup of coffee, and this thing here, you know, like that, but your wheel hits right where it's joined. So instead of going to the center line, they went that way. They cut it's 3/4 of the lane. You know, and the real neat one is this last one. That is west of Losher Road. That's that neat straight line of asphalt. You can have them.
Who did that?
What?
The road commission.
No, road commission.
Yeah.
Well,
But anyways, I am very upset about that. And the driveway by Highland Park Baptist Church, when I came out the other day, it's already coming off. You can already see the stones. And somebody swept up the stones, and there's a pile about like that of stone that's already peeling off of the driveway. But Gary Trussell told me that on drives, that's why when it's smooth, it's a smaller stone. But then the last thing, Jim, give those to Mr. Shred, those pictures. You can show Mike about it. Mike was doing it. Anyway, hey, Jim, the other thing that the picture didn't come out clear is they didn't put enough topsoil in. So along all the curbs and around the sewers, manholes, they got that much sticking up. So you'll never be able to cut the grass without breaking your blade. And that's everywhere. And sometimes west of Losher Road on the south side, they haven't even covered the roots of the trees. It just is into the trees and then it goes out. I mean, you know, you take away a yard of topsoil and you go for a mile and a half, or 2 miles, 2.5 miles, you make some big money.
Sure. We're going to have to do whatever it takes to get other folks to meet the example we set on the bridge. On time, under budget, it's their budget, but I suspect I don't think there's any bad money. No, there is some.
I'm sure there's a match, yeah, I'm sure.
So, and fit and finish, I mean, this is ridiculous.
Well, Jim,
Go ahead.
Jim, this goes back to who's inspecting the job. You know, that's the question that comes up. This was happening in our city, and we're supposed to have inspectors. When I watched Civic Center Drive, and I saw people out there monitoring that, and it seems that they were on top of it. So if this is unacceptable, why is it that we have to bring it forward when we have not only an engineering firm supposed to be watching it, but also our own
We'll have to see
internal?
how much authority we have, and we're a small piece of the
We would not have had an engineering firm on site on this because it wasn't our project. We simply
County
pay our percent match, our small percent match. It was a county road commission project. So that's what you get when you don't have the city, you know.
They don't do roads like that.
I know, that's terrible.
But you know, when we talk about north of us getting concrete instead of asphalt, and you talk about all the bridges and all the entities, and the guy says at our meeting that MDOT meeting that they paid extra for that. Well, we never even had a choice to be asked. And the director of Oakland County Road Commission, we sat with him at SEMCOG, and I balled him out for not putting all concrete. And he said, well, we put what was there originally. If it was asphalt, they put asphalt. But it doesn't make sense to do half of a driveway when the other half is cracked. I mean, I don't know how you can even justify that, or that line of asphalt. I mean, you got to be crazy to even do a job like that.
Don, they don't live here. They don't pay.
Well, it's their road. It's their road.
It's a Southfield.
And I told this director, I said, you know what? You have to do things with class. If you're going to do it with class. Oh, we're spreading money. And I said, you know what? Then do less jobs and do what you do and do it right. And I really got upset with him because, you know, I mean, I don't see anybody do that. And, you know, the concrete road, you know, I have to get into that, being a cement man, you know, that thing's gonna crack up anyway. Like, you see down with the center line when they pull the rail off, they troweled on the line where they saw it. You know, you can see where it broke off and then they patched it. That's gonna pop up this winter.
Well, what we're going to need to do,
And you didn't tar
we
nothing.
need to make a long list of all that's wrong, and then start a campaign to get it corrected.
Yeah, as long as we're talking about roads. Now,
Our road.
this is our road. And the end result may be exactly the way it was supposed to be. But I hope not. And I'm talking about Greenview off of 9 Mile. When the process that they used is they went in and they ground up the surface and then just let it kind of set for a while so that people driving up and down would pulverize it. And then they went in and well, first of all, every time the wind blew, it got everybody's car all dirty. But then when they finished it, they put a slurry of tar down on that and allowed it to set. And then I guess they did it a couple of times. But when you drive down on it, it almost feels like it's a road that is ready to be fixed. I mean, it's rough. It's not a smooth surface, and it may be exactly the way. Pardon?
It's not blacktop.
No.
It's not finished, right? Like
No,
it's
no.
not-
It's rough.
This is, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the process we looked at, because it was cheaper that Birmingham was doing. We
Yeah,
did that field trip.
but it wasn't, look, the ones I seen were not like that.
The other thing is up
Cake
here,
seal, do you mean?
they've allowed people to run through it before the tar hardens.
Yeah.
So you have all these tire tracks.
Yeah.
We'll pay it a visit tomorrow and find out what went on.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I mean, the ones we've seen in Birmingham,
Yeah.
Beverly Hills was really nice.
Yeah.
Smooth.
Right.